Mindsets. How do we develop shared mindsets to ensure key decision makers work in unison to support students with disabilities on their road to success? Shared mindsets is the first step to changing outcomes for students with disabilities. Mindsets must shift before knowledge can be obtained to develop a holistic and effective system of support so that we can ensure students with disabilities have success in high school and will thrive after graduation. What does a positive shared mindset look like? It includes these key qualities: empathy, a growth mindset, big dreams, agency, belonging, and connectedness. Empathy.
A lot of the conversation is about how can administrators and teachers provide these services, but we never consider the stigmas, the struggles that the students that need to receive those services go through.
Oftentimes as administrators, we're in the rooms having conversations about students and parents and what they need. We tend to forget what it's like to be a student, or oftentimes forget what it's like to be a parent because we're not wearing that hat. What I believe is missing are the voices of the parents and the students. There's nothing wrong with bringing a parent and a student into the room and having these particular conversations with them so that they have a voice in the process. Because you would be surprised what our parents and our students would say and what they could contribute to the conversation.
As an educator, people from different parishes around the area, hearing what they're doing, what's working, what's not working, that gave some valuable insight. And then I think most importantly, hearing from one of the young adults that was in attendance who has a specific learning disability that did have challenges and how it affected them.
A growth mindset.
I feel like with my learning disability and like me getting tested as a Black girl with a learning disability, it wasn't a positive thing, it was a negative thing. So when I got it, I was like, I don't want my accommodations, I don't want people to know I have a learning disability. So I feel like looking at students from a growth mindset instead of a deficit mindset is really big, because when you look at students from a deficit mindset, it keeps them right here. It says this is their issue and they're gonna stay having an issue, rather than this is what they were diagnosed with, these are the things that they are struggling with, and what can we do to better help them?
We always talk from a deficit mindset instead of talking about students from a growth mindset. In particular, in an IEP meeting, we only at that point talk about the student successes and parents, do you have any successes that you'd like to contribute specifically based on their academics, not necessarily on what's going on socially, emotionally, right?
The conversation of what can't you do versus what can you do, and then being creative with solutions to say, well, your process for achieving XYZ does not look as traditional as some others, but that doesn't mean that because it's a non-traditional solution or a non-traditional process that it's less than another one. I don't want it to be that, it's going to show up in my annual evaluation and jeopardize me gaining tenure because I didn't do something completely perfect. And then I would say that we have responsive professional development. As parents, as moms, we come to the table and we don't want to fail. We want to be perfect. I think that I felt the most empowered as a parent when I realized that I don't need to be the perfect mom. I just need to show up and just be the best version of myself on that given day with what I have. And when I embraced that, from a parental standpoint, I embraced it as a practitioner. It just gave me space. And that space has been the space that has allowed my kids to not just grow, but to really thrive.
We try to find areas where students with disabilities are excelling, highlight those, and then use those successes to breed other success.
Big dreams.
let's just dream really big. By doing that very early on, just naturally as moms, we create opportunities for our kids. It's getting you in extracurricular activities. It's having you do public speaking and doing different trips and going to the museum or standing out at the bus stop while you're waiting on the bus with a magnifying glass and looking at all the wonder and things that exist there instead of thinking about what you can't do. And so by dreaming very big first for my kids, it did not leave a lot of space for the can'ts.
Agency.
A lot is done to rather than with. Building agency is critical to sustaining achievement. Once I teach you how to identify what your challenges are and the ability to analyze to see what's working for you, then you can figure out the rest without me. You'll have teachers say, well, I don't want them to feel like a failure. And so innately, we may not provide as rigorous of an experience. We give them a very soft landing as opposed to allowing them to fail forward.
Belonging.
I was very excited to have a student voice. I think voices matter, that inclusivity matters, and so being able to hear from a student and have that perspective, especially for a student to be able to talk about their experiences for advocating for themselves is very, very important for me.
Connectedness.
I think the conversation needs to be geared a little more towards how each entity works in conjunction with each other to give a more holistic approach rather than each separate department gathering information and reporting for themselves. With a more holistic approach, one bell can sound the alarm for everyone, and we can tackle issues very early on rather than waiting until they're found by each individual entity. I think that there isn't much space or time for the collaboration. A lot of the collaboration that I see or facilitate is amongst teachers, amongst interventionists. But when you get down to specific needs of students, there often isn't enough time in the day to say, here's my plan for this specific student. I think a lot of time is spent around finding a general plan that blanket covers students with disabilities, but with more resources, more time, more people, it can be even further individualized and have a much greater impact.
Things are not separate and apart in education. I think sometimes when we look at students with disabilities, we like to think of it being separate and apart than whether it collective, collaborative, collegial, working together. Nothing in education works separate and apart. We all work together. So if we look at it as a big pot of gumbo, where you have all of these ingredients that come together, and when you cook it for so long and you season it up, it creates this great, wonderful pot of delicious gumbo, right? If we look at it as that way of taking all of these positive ingredients, putting it together, every now and then we might have to add a little spice here and a little spice there just to enhance our students' lives. It'll all turn around and make this great, great, productive student.
By shifting mindsets in these key areas of empathy, a growth mindset, imagining big dreams, and ensuring agency, belonging, and connectedness, we can ensure students get exactly what they need to succeed. Follow the conversation and learn more about the Grad Partnership at gradpartnership.org.